A person can move through an entire day surrounded by voices, screens, and obligations, and still reach the night with the sharp impression of having belonged to nothing. It is a kind of silence that does not require an empty room. It forms in the middle of traffic, in the exhausted pause between tasks, in the endless scroll that keeps your hands busy while your life slips by unnoticed. It is the silence that exposes what most people avoid admitting. We are becoming alone on the inside, even while the world keeps buzzing around us. This feeling appears at precise moments. When you try to say something that matters and notice the other person drifting into their own reflection. When you recognize that you exchange messages every day, yet cannot remember the last time you shared a real thought with anyone. And the most unsettling part is how ordinary it all seems. Nothing dramatic, just another weekday. Hannah Arendt would call this the collapse of the common world, the invisible ground that should hold us together. When that ground breaks, each person carries a private reality, untouched by contrast or conversation. At this point, loneliness stops being a personal ache. It becomes a historical condition, a destiny shaped quietly but relentlessly, and there is no honest counterargument left standing against it. Look at how we live: fast connections, fragile bonds, opinions shaped and reshaped by invisible filters, people drifting toward whatever confirms their own echo. This is not speculation. It is daily life. And every fragment of this daily life reinforces what Arendt saw with unnerving clarity. A society can keep functioning long after its individuals stop meeting each other in truth. But the cost is severe. First we lose the other, then we lose the world itself. This is where our video begins, because if loneliness has become the destiny of the modern age, it isn't due to a lack of company. It is the result of losing everything that was meant to exist between us. And unless we confront it now, that destiny becomes permanent. A strange truth marks our era. People collapse internally in places designed for connection. A crowded subway, a buzzing office, a family dinner where no one lifts their eyes. These scenes prove a fact no one gosta de admitir. Loneliness is no longer the absence of others, but the absence of meaning between them. Arendt understood this fracture with startling precision. She wrote that loneliness begins when the sense of belonging to the world is destroyed. Not when you are physically alone, but when the shared ground that makes reality real starts to vanish. In that moment, even a full room feels like a deserted landscape. This is not an abstract diagnosis. It reveals itself in the worker who spends 8 hours around colleagues, yet speaks only in functional commands. In the student surrounded by classmates while feeling entirely unanchored. The environment is full, but the world is empty. And this emptiness is not a harmless quirk of modern life. It is the emotional climate that shapes everything we are becoming. Arendt separates isolation from loneliness for a reason. Isolation is practical. Loneliness is corrosive. Isolation still allows thought. Loneliness swallows it. The lonely man, she says, loses trust in his own self as the only reality left. That line is not dramatic. It is diagnostic. When a person no longer trusts their inner voice, they grasp for whatever external voice feels loud enough to replace it. This is why denying the current crisis fails instantly. The signs are everywhere, consistent and irrefutable. Social density has increased, yet inner connection has thinned to a thread. People speak more than ever, yet say almost nothing that anchors them to each other. The so-called connectivity of the age has replaced encounters with fragments, reactions, tiny blurts of self that never meet. A society can endure noise. It cannot endure the disappearance of a shared world. And this chapter closes with one conclusion that leaves no escape. The modern age is crowded, but the modern individual is not held. Without that holding, Loneliness becomes not a mood, but the default state of a civilization that forgot how to appear truthfully before one another. A disturbing paradox defines the modern condition. Never have individuals insisted so fiercely on their personal truths, yet never has reality felt so hollow. The more each person clings to their own perspective, the less anything remains between them. This vacuum is not accidental. It is exactly what Hannah Arendt feared when she wrote that the loss of the common world is the loss of the world itself. In Arendt's vocabulary, the world is not the planet, nor a private inner realm. It is the shared space of appearance where facts acquire solidity, because they are seen and confirmed by many. When this shared ground dissolves, people do not merely disagree, they inhabit incompatible realities. Dialogue becomes impossible, trust evaporates, and loneliness, in Arendt's sense, becomes unavoidable. This fracture is visible everywhere. Two people observe the same event, yet walk away with interpretations so distant they no longer talk, but merely collide. Families split over narratives. Public discourse slides into noise. And beneath these symptoms lies the deeper wound, the erosion of a reality we can stand on together. Arendt sharpened the point with brutal clarity in the Origins of Totalitarianism. What makes loneliness so unbearable is the loss of one's own self, which can be realized only in solitude with others. This line dismantles any simplistic explanation. Loneliness is not cured by company. It is cured only when the world between us is restored. Without that world, even crowds cannot save us. Denying this breakdown is impossible. The evidence is too consistent, the philosophical logic too tight. A society may survive economic crises or political turmoil, but it cannot survive the disappearance of the shared reality that grants stability to thought itself. By the end of this argument, one conclusion becomes inescapable. The loneliness of the modern age is not a private misfortune. It is the direct consequence of a world that no longer exists between us. We chase meaning with the urgency of a thirst, yet the moment we reach for it, the glass is empty. This contradiction sits at the center of modern life. We long for depth while living on routines designed to keep everything shallow. Arendt was not alone in sensing this fracture. Kierkegaard called it the sickness unto death, the moment a person becomes estranged from their own self while performing a life that looks complete from the outside. Camus framed it differently, as the instant when the world reveals its indifference and the individual feels suspended in nothing. Arendt converges with both, but with a sharper angle. The emptiness does not arise merely from within. It is produced by systems that reduce human beings to functions. You can see this every morning. A person wakes already counting tasks, consumed by performance metrics that leave no space for interior life. Another scrolls through highlights of others, feeling a faint sense of inadequacy that never fully ends. This is not personal weakness. It is the architecture of the age. Even the World Health Organization has noted the global rise of anxiety and burnout, a predictable consequence of environments that treat people as replaceable units. Arendt's insight here is decisive. When life becomes a cycle of labor and consumption, the self becomes thinner. She wrote in The Human Condition that society expects from each of its members a certain kind of behavior, imposing innumerable and various rules, until the inner person is crowded out. The result is a life full of activity but devoid of grounding, a life that moves but barely touches reality. This emptiness is not abstract. It is the fatigue that makes conversation superficial. It is the dull ache that follows a day of performing roles instead of living a life. And it proves a truth older than any modern crisis. Human beings cannot thrive without a sense of world, purpose, and rooted presence. The ancient dilemma persists untouched. We are creatures built for meaning, trapped in structures built for efficiency. And until this tension is confronted, the modern individual will continue moving quickly through a life that never quite feels lived. There is a terrifying pattern in history. When individuals lose their inner anchor, someone else steps in to lend them a borrowed one. Moments of collective emptiness always attract those who promise certainty. This is not coincidence, it is mechanism. Arendt exposed this dynamic with clarity sharp enough to cut metal. In the Origins of Totalitarianism, she states that the ideal subject of domination is not the fanatic, but people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction no longer exists. That collapse never begins with politics. It begins with loneliness so deep that a person no longer trusts their own perception. Once reality feels unstable, any voice offering stability becomes irresistible. You can see this mechanism unfold in ordinary moments. A person isolated for long enough gravitates toward narratives that simplify the chaos. A fragmented community grows vulnerable to loud explanations that turn fear into conviction. These shifts are not signs of stupidity. They are consequences of abandonment. When the world between people disintegrates, they cling to anything that resembles structure. Philosophers before Arendt glimpsed this danger. Nietzsche warned that when the inner world dissolves, the vacuum demands idols. Heidegger saw how dislocated individuals drift toward collective identities that promise belonging. Arendt ties these warnings directly to political outcomes. Loneliness is not only a psychological wound, it is a gateway. This is why denying the link between inner emptiness and susceptibility to manipulation is impossible. Every historical collapse of democratic life has followed the same trail. Individuals cut off from common reality, seeking meaning at any cost, surrendering judgment to whoever offers purpose. Arendt's diagnosis leaves no escape route. A society of lonely individuals is never neutral. It becomes fertile ground for any force willing to provide simple answers to complex fears. Loneliness did not simply happen to us. It was engineered, layered, and reinforced until standing together began a peculiar transformation. It started to feel no different from standing alone. The threads of this argument pull tight now. The silent fractures of daily life, the demolition of the common world, the hollowing routines that corrode the self, and the political hunger for vulnerable minds. None of these stand as isolated observations. They lock into one structure so precise that denying it would require closing the eyes on purpose. Loneliness in the modern age is not an emotion. It is the architecture of our civilization. Arendt saw this before the rest of us had language for it. She understood that human beings are not held together by affection or proximity, but by the solidity of a world that exists between them. When that world loses shape, no amount of companionship can compensate. People become adjacent, not connected, present, but unreachable. Thought itself becomes fragile because thought needs resistance, contradiction, recognition. Without that, the mind collapses inward. This is why Arendt insisted that what makes loneliness so terrible is not being alone, but being unable to find company in one's own self. That sentence is not poetic, it is anatomical. It describes the exact moment a person, deprived of a shared world, loses the internal grounding required for judgment. And once judgment dissolves, the individual becomes weightless, easily pulled by whatever force offers direction. Every chapter so far pointed to this same truth from different angles. The crowded isolation of our routines showed the disappearance of real encounter. The collapse of common reality revealed the impossibility of dialogue. The manufactured emptiness of work exposed how identity thins under constant performance. The political vulnerability of lonely individuals demonstrated what happens when the world erodes faster than people can rebuild meaning. Together, they form the closing argument. Loneliness is not only the fate of individuals, It is the destiny of entire societies that forget what human plurality demands. A world cannot survive on personal truths, private timelines, curated selves, or algorithmic mirrors. A world survives only where people can meet, speak, contradict, and co-create the reality they inhabit. Without this, freedom becomes ornamental. Institutions become hollow shells. Power becomes gravitational, drawing the dislocated toward simplifications that feel like salvation. The modern person often believes loneliness is private, something to fix with new habits or new company. But Arendt would reject this instantly. Loneliness on this scale is never private. It is political. It is historical. It is civilization level. And every civilization that allowed loneliness to replace shared reality paid a price that could not be reversed. This leads to the final, inescapable truth. If the world between us continues to erode, loneliness will not simply shape our emotions. It will shape our future. It will determine how we think, how we obey, how we break. It will dictate what forms of power rise next. And once a lonely society surrenders its ability to think in common, its downfall is already written. Arendt leaves us with a line that seals the door behind this argument. In The Human Condition, she writes, "The world is not human because it is made by human beings, but because it is made for them to live in together. If that together collapses, what remains may still be full of people, but it will no longer be a world." And that is the final impact. The loneliness of our age is not a passing discomfort. It is the quiet force capable of dismantling everything that once made us human. There is a quiet ache shaping our age, the sense of moving through a world full of people, yet feeling untouched by any of them. Arendt warned that when the space between us disappears, we lose more than connection. We lose the very world that makes us human. If this video reached you in any way, you've already helped more than you realize. Watching, thinking, and sharing the content keeps this work alive. Your presence here matters. But if you want to take one step deeper, to strengthen a community that refuses the emptiness of modern life, becoming a channel member gives you access to exclusive insights, behind-the-scenes reflections, and a closer circle of conversation. And if you ever feel moved to support the channel directly, Super Thanks is a simple way to keep this project standing. Still, the truth is simple. Just by being here, you are already contributing. If you choose to stay, to join, or to send a Super Thanks, thank you. If you simply watch and carry these ideas with you, thank you just the same.